How science is observed in the Philippines during the pre-Spanish era.
Science is observed in the Philippines during pre-Spanish era in the way of living of the people. They employed scientific knowledge to cultivate their food-producing crops, care for their animals to assist them in their everyday activities, and producing goods. The way they interpret the movement of the heavenly bodies in predicting seasons and climates, as well as organizing days into months and years, is an example of science. They found therapeutic benefits of plants and employed science to prepare the soil for agricultural purposes.
How technology is used by the people in the Philippines during the pre-Spanish era.
Technology is used by the people in the Philippines during pre-Spanish era by building their dwellings, irrigation system, and develop equipment that they could use in their daily lives throughout the pre-Spanish era. They created tools for gardening, hunting, cooking, and fishing, as well as tools for fighting their adversaries in their wars and tribal disputes, and for transportation. They employed technology to create musical instruments as well.
How trading during the pre-Spanish era had influenced the lives of the Filipinos.
Trading with China, Indonesia, Japan, and other nearby countries during pre-Spanish era influenced the lives of the Filipinos by giving possibilities for cultural and technological interactions. All of these Asian scientific and technological pursuits are now referred to as indigenous science or folk science.
What was brought by the Spanish colonization in the Philippines?
The Spanish colonization in the Philippines brought with them their own culture and practices. They established schools. They taught us how to read, write, and speak in English. It was also the start of country's official science and technology, which is currently known as the School of Science and Technology.
What were focused by science and technology during the Spanish regime?
Science and technology during the Spanish regime focuses on comprehending various topics related to the human body, plants, animals, and celestial bodies. Also, technology focuses on the use and development of common household tools.
Describe the lives of the Filipinos during the Spanish regime in terms of education.
The lives of the Filipinos during the Spanish regime in terms of education slowly became modernized as they adopted certain Western technologies and lifestyles. And using indigenous resources, the Filipinos devised ways to mimic the technology brought by the Spaniards. The Catholic organizations built official institutions and universities where medicine and advanced science were taught.
What was brought by the galleon trade in the country during the Spanish era?
The galleon trade has provided the Philippines with further technology and progress. Although only profitable to Spaniards, these transactions enable for the introduction of new ideas, crops, tools, cultural practices, technology, and Western practices. Some of the Filipino students who were able to study in Europe also helped progress medicines, engineering, arts, music, and literature in the Philippines.
What halted the growth of science in the Philippines during the Spanish era?
The growth of science in the Philippines during the Spanish era came to a standstill as one of the most developed area in Southeast Asia at the time. Although the country has benefited from this achievement, the people's superstitious beliefs and Catholic doctrines and customs during the Spanish era halted the growth of science in the country.
What were the development of science and technology during the American era?
The Americans have more influence in the development of science and technology in the Philippines compared to the Spaniards. It established public education system, improved engineering works and people's health conditions, established a modern research university, which is the University of the Philippines, built more public hospitals, mineral resources were explored and exploited during American times, transportation and communication systems were improved, but it is not accessible throughout the country.
How the Americans implement science education in the Philippines?
Americans introduced the idea of free education to the Philippine island. The United States even sent teachers to help establish schools where Filipino students could have free education. Science education is also being implemented in the Philippines by the Americans, who have reorganized science study and introduced it to the public and private schools. Science education in primary and secondary schools focuses on natural studies, science, and sanitation until it is properly called as science. Science education in higher education has also substantially improved and modernized. Malaria, cholera, tuberculosis, and other tropical diseases were studied in depth.
How the desire of the Americans to develop the human resources had helped the Filipinos.
The desire of the Americans to develop the human resources of the Philippines to serve their own interests is somehow beneficial in the country. These provide opportunities to the American academics to introduce new information and technology to the country. Hospitals and schools were also introduced to far-flung locations by Protestant church missions in various parts of the country. These initiatives gradually strengthened the country's scientific and technological base.
How the World War II had stabilized the development of the Philippines.
World War II has destabilized the country in many ways. Institutions and public facilities were turned to ashes. Houses were burned, and many lives was destroyed. The country had a difficult time to restore and to rebuild itself from the ruins of war. The human spirit to survive and to rebuild the country may be strong, but the capacity of the country to bring back what was destroyed was limited.
How the development of science and technology in the Philippines shaped and impacted the people.
The development of science and technology in the Philippines is shape and impact the people by several factors and influences. Like the history of science in the other countries, it is always shaped by human and social activities, both internal influences such as survival, culture, economic activities, and external influences such as foreign colonizers, trades with foreign countries, and international economic demands. Science and technology may have significant impact on the lives of the people and in the development of the Philippine society. However, improving the quality of science education will still remains the big challenge of the country.